Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chrisley shares how parents talked with no contact order. Chrisley has shared how his parents talked to each other with a no contact order. This is something that was extremely hard on Todd and Julie. However, they still got to talk once in a while, and Chase explained how. This was not an often occurring occurrence, and it was not what they would prefer. There is a lot to unfold and uncover. Keep reading to find out more about this situation. Todd and Julie Chrisley were in federal prison for 2.5 years. However, Donald Trump pardoned them earlier this week. Both were released from prison on Wednesday. They got to go home and see their friends and family. However, this was also the first time they got to speak to and touch each other in years. This reunion had to be sweet. Savannah had been fighting for her parents' freedom since the day they were arrested. This is a dream come true for Savannah, Chase, Grayson, and Chloe. Fans cannot wait to see their new Lifetime show that will be coming soon. However, they are hopeful Todd and Julie will make their appearance. Chrisley has shared how his parents talked in prison with a no contact order. The only contact that they had was through emails, which the BOP, Federal Bureau of Prisons, would delay for weeks on end. Maybe my dad would send her an email one day, and she wouldn't get it for 2 or 3 weeks. It was impossible to have a conversation, but they didn't have any. They weren't allowed to talk on the phone. Nothing. This would be hard for anyone. Not getting to talk to your significant other can take a major toll on your relationship. However, Todd and Julie do not seem like they skipped a beat. It seems as though Todd and Julie could occasionally send emails to each other. However, they would take weeks to get to one another, and the conversations could not be had. Regardless, they got to hear from each other once in a while, which helped and was better than not at all. Fans are glad to see Todd and Julie home with their children. What do you think about this? Are you shocked they got to email each other? Sound off in the comments below. We would love to hear your thoughts about love from the way your parents talk, not just to you, but to each other, about life, about dreams, about failure. Growing up in the Chrisley household wasn't exactly ordinary. With cameras capturing our every move and our lives broadcast to millions, it could be easy to forget what was real. But if there's one thing I'll never forget, it's the way my parents talked. Not the sound of their voices, though my dad's booming southern drawl is unforgettable, but the way their words shaped me. People think of my dad, Todd Chrisley, as a man of strong opinions and stronger comebacks. And he is. But behind the sass and snark is a man who always meant what he said. That's the first thing I learned about him. Words are promises. When he said he'd be there for me, he meant through every dumb decision I made. And there were plenty. But more than that, my dad believed that how you talk is who you are. If you speak in love, you move in love. If you speak in fear, you'll live in fear. He wasn't one for silence. No awkward moments. If something needed to be said, he said it, sometimes even when it didn't need to be said. But what always struck me most was how he talked about other people, especially when they weren't in the room. Speak on others the way you want God to speak on you, he'd say. Not in a preachy way. It was more like, don't talk trash and expect treasure. I'd hear him talk about business partners who betrayed him, or family who disappointed him, and he'd still say something kind. Or at least something with grace. That doesn't mean he didn't get angry. Believe me, he could light a room on fire with a look. But he knew how to put words to pain without making pain permanent. And then there was Mom, Julie, the calm to his storm. Her voice could lower the tension in any room, even when chaos reigned. If Dad was the fire, Mom was the rain that cooled it down. She didn't need to shout to be heard. Her words carried power because they were rare and honest. Mom taught me that you don't have to always have the last word to win the conversation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing. She'd listen, really listen, even when I was saying something dumb. She'd tilt her head just slightly, squint those blue eyes and nod. I knew she wasn't agreeing. She was just waiting for me to finish so she could say something I needed to hear. I remember one time, after a pretty rough patch in my early 20s, money drama, a breakup, too many bad choices at once, I came home, trying to play it cool, like I had it all under control. Mom was in the kitchen, mixing pancake batter like it was any other day. She didn't ask questions right away. She just said, "There's syrup in the pantry and grace on the table." That was her way of saying, "You're forgiven before you even ask." She never made me grovel. She let her words fill me back up before I even realized how broken I felt. And when they spoke to each other, it was a dance. Sometimes loud, sometimes quiet. Sometimes stubborn, sometimes sweet. But always anchored in something deeper than just getting through the day. Even when they disagreed, and trust me, that happened, their arguments were never about destruction. It was like they were trying to understand each other better, not win. There was one night, no cameras, just us, when I asked them why they always talked everything out. Most people just avoid the hard stuff. Dad leaned back in his chair, hands folded like he was about to deliver a sermon. "Because silence breeds secrets," he said, "and secrets rot families from the inside." Mom added, "Talking keeps us clean. It's like sweeping the floor. You don't do it once and say it's done. You do it every day." That stuck with me. Talking wasn't just noise in our house. It was maintenance. It was care. It was how we showed up for each other, again and again. I know not everyone grows up in a home like that. Some people grow up hearing words like weapons. Or worse, grow up in silence so thick you can't breathe. I was lucky. My parents talked with intention. Even when they got it wrong, they were trying to get it right. They told us, "I love you," so often it became a rhythm. Before bed, after fights, during breakfast. But they also taught us the harder words. "I'm sorry, I messed up, I forgive you, and you matter." Especially that last one. You matter. Those two words are the reason I'm still standing, still working on becoming the man they raised me to be. If I have kids someday, God willing, I want to talk like that. Not just to them, but around them. Because it's not just about parenting. It's about how you live. How you speak into the world is how you shape the world.